Welcome to Season 2 of Rooted and Reaching, a podcast about startups, entrepreneurs, and innovation in the South Bend, Elkhart region of Indiana. I'm Marty Mechtenberg.
And I'm Susan Ford. We're excited to share 16 new stories with you this year. And we're going to get tactical about how entrepreneurs are confronting challenges, building success, and moving our region into the future.
Well, welcome everyone to Season 2 of Rooted and Reaching. We are really thrilled today to have two fantastic local entrepreneurs joining us, Mee Sun Klingerman and Jairo Aleman, who are the proprietors of a Bite With Mee, which is right now a catering business primarily. Is that accurate?
Catering, we do pop-up events, and we have grab-and-go prepared food items at multiple locations like the Purple Porch Co-op, Common Goods Grocery Cooperative, River Valley Market, and the Portage Collective.
Excellent. So even when you're not having a pop-up event or catering an event, people can still find your food.
Yes.
And purchase your food. That's great. So we all know the food business is a very tough business for an entrepreneur. There's a lot of moving parts, and I think the folks that I've known in the food business, they lead first with their passion for food, and I'm assuming that might be the case with the two of you as well. You have a unique, I think, fusion, and I'm wondering, Jairo, do you want to start? How did you what's your food background prior to meeting Mee Sun, for example? Where were you in the food world?
I was actually doing Italian food. So I started, and I would say that my journey in the cooking world started with watching, Emeril Lagasse, and I thought that was, pretty awesome, figure in the food world, and it's like, well, what is this Italian food? I know he was doing like a little, Italian, like Cajun fusion stuff. You know what I mean? It wasn't like specifically to anything, but I had an offer to go to the Quad Cities, and there's a Italian chain restaurant there called Biaggi's, and which is like an elevated Olive Garden.
Okay.
So it was like high end, and everything was made from scratch, and except for the noodles, but they had really good quality noodles there, and yeah, that started.
So is it fair for me to imagine a 12-year-old Jairo sitting, cross-legged in front of the TV watching this cooking shows and saying, "I want to do that someday"? Is that sort of?
Yeah. That it was my mother that was watching it, and I was just kind of sitting there watching with her. She really loved the enthusiasm he had for things. It kind of intrigued me. Like his personality was pretty awesome. He was really entertaining.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really looking. I guess a part of me was looking into the entertainment aspect when I got into cooking. And I was like, man, I want to be on TV.
Yeah.
I want to do that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I wasn't really thinking about anything else. I want to be a specifically Mexican chef or anything like that. It was just like whatever I can do to be on TV.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. And the first step in that was, or at least the first step into the food world was this Italian restaurant chain in the Quad Cities.
Yep.
You were working as a chef, as a cook?
I was working as a prep cook.
Prep cook.
So I was cooking all the sauces, prepping all the lasagnas, meatball, pretty much doing everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And how about you, Mee Sun? You're coming to this from a double cultural background as well. I mean, probably you too, Jairo. But how did you get involved with food, especially Korean food?
Well, Korean, that came much later in my journey. So after I graduated from IU, Bloomington, I didn't want to go out into the workforce and do a typical job. And I was like, how can I prolong my adolescence a little longer? I think I'll do this program called WWOOFing, which was Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. So I got to travel the United States and learn more about where the importance of where our food comes from and cooking it fresh. And one of the first farms that I was at was actually 110-person intentional community, and they fed them on this very tiny, half-acre garden. And I loved working in the kitchen there and cooking for that many people. I started really enjoying that. And after I came back to South Bend, I was seeking all these different avenues and realized when I came back that it was starting here, that they already had some of it here. They had over 50 Unity Gardens when I came back.
Sure.
They had 2 grocery cooperatives.
Yep.
So I started working with the Monroe Park Grocery Cooperative,
Right.
which is still the commissary kitchen that we use today, and that we're very much connected with the Catholic worker community there. I did all the prepared foods there. Anything, they were getting bushels of, kale from the Amish or all kinds of things, and
Sure.
I'd have to figure out what to prepare and sell it. So, I made a lot of vegetarian, vegan, healthier dishes,
Okay.
and my main goal was to make it taste good
Yeah.
and how to make it accessible to people from that area where it's a food desert and might not know, what do I do with kale? What is kale?
Yeah. I wonder, did you enjoy that challenge?
I did.
Yeah, you have all these.
Yeah.
You don't know.
I didn't
Did
even
you
know
know
some
on
of the
a-
things. Like I had to do Jerusalem artichokes,
Okay.
like a lot of them. I was like, I don't think the dish was that great, but I had to figure out how to do things.
But you certainly have to bring creativity
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
What do I do with 3 bushels of Jerusalem artichokes? Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then after that, we did do a combined. Jairo and I started working together. He would come visit me while I was preparing dishes for the co-op during his work break. He would come help me at the kitchen.
I had a crush on her.
That sounds like it. Yeah.
And we did the NNN Arts Cafe under the Monroe Park Co-op and the Our Lady of the Road. And we served people at the event. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. We get to see people interacting with them, how much joy it brought them to eat the food. And it's like, we should make this a business. Like, we should totally do this.
So you did that, and Jairo was part of that.
He helped dish it out. Yeah, you made was it frijoles charros or something for the first time there? Or I did a vegan chili.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until later that Jairo actually was the first person to teach me the first Korean dish I've ever.
Oh boy, you gotta tell us about that, Jairo. How did that happen? Did you learn a Korean dish because you had a crush on her and you thought this was a way to?
No, I have a friend who's Lao. His family's from Laos, and I just fell in love with their food, and I was like, so this is Asian food? Like, it was like, well, Lao food, and it's like, man, I wonder how many other, because I've tasted Chinese and this doesn't taste like Chinese, and I was like, what else is there? And so, him and I kind of, he introduced me to other things, and I was like, I saw a Korean dish one time. I don't remember where, if it was on TV or on a YouTube or something, but I was like, I want to try Korean. So we went to
Soul Garden.
Oh, Soul Garden on Mishawaka Avenue there.
Yeah, but it was where it was
McKinley.
Yeah, it was further down on McKinley.
Okay.
The first location, because now they're a little bit closer to like Logan Street.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was like japchae, and that seems pretty easy. Let me chop up some carrots and onions and toss in, some spinach and these noodles. So it started from there.
Yeah.
Just made my own sauce, and I was like, I think I'll share that with Mee Sun.
Yeah.
And
I thought it was okay. I was like, I would change it like this. So we actually changed it for our business and do our own version of it.
Now, how did you, did you know Korean food at that point so that you could judge what Jairo cooked? Or
I had it a couple of times. I had an art teacher at Washington that took us to Sonny's one time.
I remember Sonny's.
But I hadn't really experienced much of that growing up. I didn't know a lot of other Asian people either. And being adopted, my parents definitely didn't have that background and didn't explore a lot of other cuisines in general. My parents are from Walkerton, North Liberty originally. More meat and potatoes type of thing.
It's kind of like mid-America, meat and potatoes.
Yeah, definitely not garlic things. Like garlic is too much, and I never got to experience that. And through meeting Jairo and trying to reconnect to that. We also have a good friend, Hannah, that was helping us with the business that works with Sunchoke Farms. She's Korean. She comes from Bloomington, a big Korean family. And she's like, oh, no, this is exactly like, I can help you do this, or this, you have the flavors, right? This is what we do. Like, am I really that Korean? She's like, no, the way you talk, Robin, you're actually very Korean. The way, part of your personality. He's always told me that because he knows more about Asian culture, I would say, than I do. He's like, no, you're very Asian. Don't worry.
Yeah, you got that. So, like, can we back up for a minute with you, Jairo? So last time we left you, you were in the Quad Cities working in an Italian chain restaurant. And all of a sudden you're living in South Bend teaching Mee Sun how to cook Korean food. How did that happen?
I started going to Ivy Tech joined their culinary program. And they, actually, back it up even more a little bit.
Whatever you need to do.
I was working at Guitar Center at the time.
Oh, before that.
Okay.
I was traveling to Alaska.
That's where she was going.
Well, you were doing the woofing?
Yeah, I was
doing
the woofing.
Okay.
But I was trying to teach myself guitar while I was driving cross country.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so she brought it in, and I restrung her guitar, and I was like, I remembered her from high school.
Oh, no kidding.
So I was like, yeah, man, if you need any other help with it or whatever, give me a call.
Like, I'm going to Alaska. I don't know, but
Alaska, I don't know if I'll ever be back, but okay. And later on, we ended up running into each other at Meyer, and that was the start. Like, well, what are you doing now? And what's going on? It's like, I'm in Ivy Tech doing the culinary thing, and she was like, I work at the Monroe Street Co-op, and so we kind of just started, talking.
Sure.
Then, and it's like, hey, it would be cool, like, if you could come help sometimes. It's really cool. Like, what is Catholic worker? What is this, all this stuff? And that's where I started kind of getting more involved, and more what she enjoyed was like fresh ingredients, local, and supporting local businesses, and because remember, my dream was to be on TV.
Right.
So it was like, well, okay, this isn't the path to go down that road, but I mean, let's see what this does, And so I ended up working with her at Monroe Street on some things, and from there, it just.
You guys, this is a great story because it's a food story, but it's also a love story, and it's also a story of a cultural journey, and a story of serving others in a lot of ways. I mean, I'm hearing in Mee Sun's description of food, like how much joy bringing that good food to people in the community brings to you. This is great. So maybe let's get to a Bite with Mee. So you knew each other, you were both dabbling in the food world from different perspectives slightly. How did you get to a Bite with Mee through all of this?
Well, I was trying to do the Spark program a couple of times.
At St. Mary's College. Yep.
Each time I was pregnant, so it never really quite worked out. But that's when I had to do a pitch the first time, and I didn't even know what the name of the business would be. But in going through trying to make the pitch, it just kind of spilled out of me. Come have a bite with me. That sounds great. Let's make that the name of the business. And then we started working more on the logo and the things for the business around 2020, because we had a lot more time on our hands.
So at this point, you had decided you wanted to do this. Is that right? Like, you had decided, I want to start. What was in your mind? I want to start a what?
I really wanted a food truck from the beginning. When I first met him, and he was like, no, that's not happening in South Bend. We don't have a lot of rules and regulations for that. Who wants vegan, vegetarian food over 10 years ago? And I was like, man, I think it'll work. I really want to do it. And it was great because we had to develop so many skills to get to this point, to be ready for something like that. Great, over 10 years ago, I was like, no, it's just this idea that's floating. I think I could do it. Right. Versus now we have built the skills all these years in between on how to make it actual and functional and efficient and bring it forward.
I will tell you both that, I guess without asking your permission, I use you two as a case of people doing it right when I talk to other entrepreneurs sometimes, because occasionally there's this belief that, well, I just have this great idea and it's going to happen overnight. And I think about the two of you and the way that you had this great idea, but then you built it and you developed it and you learned the skills, and you have slowly but surely gotten closer and closer to where you want to be. And that's impressive because you've shown grit and perseverance in this, which is absolutely critical to anybody doing entrepreneurship. So sorry, a little digression there, but yeah. So you went through the Spark program.
I didn't quite do
Jairo
it.
said, okay, you didn't finish it, but food truck wasn't in the cards yet.
Right. Yep. So we just started doing some pop-up events. I needed to get an actual job and kitchen experience. So I worked at the Overlook at first, Overlook Cafe with him. He got me the job in there, but that was just as a barista, working customer service stuff, which I loved that too. But I liked the pace of that because sometimes it would just be me in the front and one cook in the back. And you had to have this great rapport on how it had to flow. Then I had to move in. Then I went into Chicory Cafe, and they saw a lot of potential there and said, you should go into the kitchen. I said, I've never worked in there. I mean, I make food at the Monroe Park Co-op, but that's just me making things up, and on my own time. And they eventually promoted me to the head kitchen manager because I was picking up on it and making sure things were in alignment. And when you need things done and you have this many caterers, you need this much product. And it gave me a lot of insight on how to run that, like how to get those skills that I didn't have.
I would imagine. Yeah. And was that your idea to do that, or did Jairo say, hey,
Jairo got me the job too.
I was like, if you want to do any business right in the restaurant, you got to learn it.
Yeah.
You got to learn it. It's cool that she had her skill in cooking for others, but when it's in a business, you got to run it like that. And so I was like, just work at a restaurant, or do something in that realm so that you can learn the skills and then apply it to what we would need to do. And she learns faster than I do. So now it's like, you learn it and then I'll learn with you.
Jairo, were you a little nervous by the idea of starting a business like this?
Not really. It's something that has always driven me from the get-go, and just learning by watching my mother feed others, right? So like, what was the importance of that? And it was like, because it brings community together. It brings, and if that's the soul of that, then what's there to be afraid of? Yes, the failure. I think statistically, like most restaurants fail. Like 80% of restaurants fail in the first 3 years.
I think there's a pretty high failure rate in the first year. Couple, And
I'm not trying to sound overconfident, but it was just one of those things that did not, for me, that didn't even occur. It's just because I love to do it. Right? It's like.
So let me ask you this. So you wanted to start the business. Did you know you were going to have to start with catering? Was that the first idea, or pop-up? You mentioned doing pop-ups.
We did pop-ups and catering at first, yeah.
So, and I know, because you won the pitch competition at Founder Factory last year, that you have a really devoted fan base. So I'm curious, how did you get your first customers?
Oh, man.
Try this.
No. For me, with the catering before, was definitely connected to the Catholic worker community, because Margie File, who owns the Our Lady of the Road building, is a theology professor at Notre Dame. And I know I got some of the catering gigs through Notre Dame that started out because of her influence, and
she
people who
trusted you, knew what you were trying to do, and said, okay, great.
And some of the people that would frequent the market there were also Notre Dame professors or students, and they were like, wait, this is really good. And so they got exposure to us through that at first to just get some catering, but the pop-ups, we tried Art Beat one year when we were still working at Chicory, when Art Beat used to be on that same block of Chicory, just that little strip,
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And I know I was disappointed because I made so much food, and I'd be like, I just want people to eat this. It's so good. And we did get people to try it, but not as many people. They're kind of like, I don't know what that is, like what's a quinoa salad? I don't or something, or quinoa lentil taco,
Yeah.
And now people really enjoy it.
So that's go ahead.
Well, you can't skip the part whereas like this is why it's important to have a little meat or protein into these recipes, because we got to cater to not just the vegan, right? There's people out here that just want to eat food.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't limit it. Don't, so we started working on different recipes.
You two are also strike me as a really good entrepreneurial pair in the sense that I think maybe Mee Sun's a little bit more of a dreamer.
Actually, it's the opposite.
Really, because what I'm hearing from Jairo is like a real strong sense of like some practicality, right? Like if we need to make this work, like people want a little bit of meat in
Here's
their
this weird
dishes.
thing.
So we got to figure things out.
I have the practicality, but I don't know how to apply it.
Okay, interesting.
She applies it. So it's like so the vision, right?
Yeah.
And the practicality, these are the steps, these are the things that, and then she's like, well, I guess this is the way we have to do it. And she's really good at picking up on that. And it's like, well, this is going to have to be done. This is good.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So
that's fantastic.
it works like that.
Has there been an element of this, of sort of education on your part? Because you're bringing sort of Korean dishes, which I would assume probably a lot of people in South Bend are not terribly familiar with. You're also bringing vegan and vegetarian dishes, which it's changing, but maybe 10 years ago or even there wasn't broad exposure to some of that kind of food. What did you have to do or did you have to educate the public on your food, or did you just eventually sort of find your people?
I mean, I think it's still about educating people on the food. That's a lot of our mission too. I think for me, that's like a big passion of mine is sourcing local and teaching people like this is made from scratch. Like it takes a lot of work to do this. And that's why they want to know why the gochu chicken tastes so good. It's like it takes 3 sauces to make that sauce before we can even make that chicken,
wow.
Or so we do educate people through that. But also, if they taste it, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, there's so many people who's like, I don't want vegan food, but they taste it and like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this was vegan, or it's so good I wouldn't even mind it.
Right.
A lot of times people will come and be like, I don't like sweet potato, but then love the nacho sauce. I mean, it's like, that's sweet potato, and I love that. I'm like, you think you don't like it, but you have to try it the way we're preparing it, because vegan vegetarian food does not have to taste bland. It doesn't have to be just a salad without the meat on it.
Sure.
It can be something that is exciting and flavorful and and if you add some flair, add that house-made kimchi on there and the pickled daikon carrot, our Mexican-Korean blend, gochi roja salsa. It's can't go wrong with that.
Fantastic. Why don't we tell our audience real quick, like I'm imagining the two of you, and like how do you develop your recipes? Is it a collaborative effort between the two of you? Are you riffing off of each other? Are you riffing off of other recipes that you've seen or that you know? Like maybe talk us through like one of your favorite dishes that you developed.
I'll tell you that one of the fan favorites that was a happy coincidence and kind of it just happened and now is a huge hit. We did the vegan nachos at a Veg Fest one year where it was not supposed to be nachos. We were sourcing El Sol tortillas.
Okay.
And we had, 500 of those that we went through and we didn't have any more. And I'm like, okay, we still have all this quinoa mix. We have the coconut curried butternut squash, sweet potato soup. We have all these chips left over with the hummus. What do we do? And Jairo's like, they're vegan. Just make them nachos. They're not going to know. I was like, what do you mean? Is that going to be good together? Is that going to taste good? And he's like, just do it. They don't know. Just let's try it. Let's see how it goes. And that was a happy mistake or coincidence. And now it's on our menu where people are trying to stalk us for when is the next time you're going to have the vegan nachos.
Yeah. That also happens to be an excellent story highlighting what you just told us. Jairo bringing a kind of practical vision to it, like nachos. Nachos is the answer. And then you bringing that kind of flexibility that maybe you learned when you got the Jerusalem artichokes and had to, figure it out. Let's make this taste great.
Yeah, and then there's another dish, tacos enchilados that we do. It's taking beef and roasting it for braising it for about 5 hours with kimchi and our adobo sauce, and we take. Yeah, it's a long process, but people really do enjoy them. And I don't know if you want to explain more of like what we do with that dish, because that actually brings together like the real like Korean Mexican elements to it.
I am curious about the fusion element of your work.
Yeah.
I think that's why I was sort of getting at like how are you, the two of you in the kitchen, like how are you? We didn't talk about your background, Jairo, in terms of your heritage, but you're bringing Mexican,
the Mexican
cooking
element
to and the element to the food, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So just watching my mom cook.
Yeah.
And eating, the guisados and the different, the tortillas that she would make, and just being brought up in that culture. But so the tacos enchiladas are basically I don't want to step over but I think it's a bite with me. Like if you were to have this taco, it's like that is what we are. The Korean Mexican element of our fusion.
Yeah, the adobo is made with Mexican chilies and the Korean gochugaru chili. We put ginger and garlic in there. You've got to take all that, boil it down, blend it up, make it into this paste that you can coat with the meat. You have to have made the house-made kimchi beforehand to put that in there, slow braise it. Then you take that fat that comes from the meat this is the enchilado part, is where it's smothered in the fat. The tortilla is when you fry it.
Got it.
And then you stuff it with the shredded beef then. Stuff it some more with some house-made kimchi, cheese melted in there. And that broth that came from the braising the meat, you then get to dunk your taco in the broth.
Oh, wow.
With your gochi roja and cilantro.
I mean, it certainly is something unique that the two of you are bringing to the marketplace in this region. Because I'm not familiar with a lot of fusion cooking happening in the sort of greater South Bend Elkhart area. So that, I mean, it's really, really unique what you're doing. And it sounds like you're creating recipes that no one else has ever created, in fact.
You like the Chap CH Taco was another one that was kind of on the fly. Because like I said, the Chap CH noodle dish, people typically love that as a noodle dish. And I think we just had extra tortillas, and he was like, put it in a taco. He grew up eating spaghetti tacos. I don't know if that's like a typical thing, but
I had parents that would come home late. And so after school, we'd be like, who's going to make us anything? And just take over leftover spaghetti, and put in a tortilla. So
you were doing fusion way back when you were a kid.
Oh, yeah. So I wasn't unfamiliar with it, with the process. It's just...
Yeah.
What can we do? What can we do to make food taste great?
Yeah.
But the Chap CH tacos are really good. It ends up being a really good texture, I think, too, for vegetarians, because the noodles are more chewy. It's a sweet potato starch, and it's great flavors. We even fed out in Elkhart. We did a Elkhart bike night once, which we didn't know how that was going to go exactly. But you fed one of these big biker guys a Chap CH taco. And he was blown away.
He loved it, huh?
He was like, I don't know what you're doing to me. Like, I'm tasting so many flavors in my mouth. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And he also ate some of the tacos enchilados, but he was surprised that he was full and nourished from the 3 tacos that you gave him.
Oh, that's fantastic.
He was like, I'm a big guy. Like, I would normally go get that elephant ear, that pizza over there, the ribs barbecue there, and I'd still be eating. He's like, I don't know what you did to me. It was beautiful. I really loved it.
What a great testimonial.
Yeah.
7 foot.
Yeah, this is a terrible. When you say bike, was like a motorcycle bike, or this was not like a bunch of road bike guys. These are motorcycles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're like, "What is this? What are you guys bringing?"
Right. Right. This is a terrible interview to do at noon because you're making me really hungry talking about all this fantastic food. I want to get to where you are today, but I know that the journey has not been a piece of cake for you, to use a little food metaphor there. What have been some of the harder challenges that you've faced building this business?
For me, the business side more so, since that's not really either of our backgrounds. each year the spreadsheet for the P&L grows longer with more categories on how you're supposed to label everything. I think the first year, I think I had 5 lines. It was like money in, cogs out, and that, just a few things. But now there's like so many operational expenses that need each line, or we have one for food fresh versus food sauces, different lines because you might have jugs of vinegar left or whatever.
And this is health department requirements, or what's driving
bookkeeping,
more the bookkeeping
accounting.
Side?
That is the bane of my existence is the receipts. I now have a pouch that I can stick it in and keep it at least month by month, but I haven't been able to enter all of them correctly
So you're sourcing products, you're purchasing those products, and then you have to track everything that's coming in the door. And you're trying to buy local, I think, right?
Yeah.
That seems a big part of your mission.
Mm-hmm. And we're trying to do that enough we have to then file sales tax with the state every month, getting all of that in order while trying to cook the food, type the invoices, answering emails, booking more events. And
right.
It's a lot.
And you've got children in the mix as well.
3 kids and balancing work and family life. That's a big challenge for us still.
What about you, Jairo? Does that track?
Yeah, pretty much. But she does most of the bookkeeping stuff. But it's the business family aspect, and for me, it's definitely family before the business. And so I really try to, through my faith, just bring the children up with awareness of themselves, but also for others. So, and that's kind of challenging too, so, and I'm more of like the emotional intelligent,
sure.
of the two of us. I mean,
yeah. Is it challenging because of just that work-life balance? Like you feel like you don't have enough time for your kids, or you want more time with your kids, or you're sacrificing your business for your kids, or what's the dynamic?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of everything. I really don't want my work to consume most of the time that I would have with the children. And I think that speaks for you too. I mean, so that's the hard part. So how do we raise them appreciating what we're doing, right? And just making them aware of that along the way, not to be scornful about it, but just be aware, right? Like this is what we're doing, so that there is no resentment later on.
Right.
Right. I think that was my stomach rumbling.
Oh,
I didn't.
Yeah. See, there you go.
I know I didn't eat any breakfast, but I think that's the challenge, right? It's how do we balance the two? So I just went to the core, just communicate with them, let them know what's happening, so that they understand why it's happening.
I think you two are also a little different in the sense that I've seen your children
they come with us
at catering events, which you don't always see. But they're there with you, maybe not helping too much. I don't know. Maybe they're huge helps, but they're present. They're very aware of what of what's happening in the business and as part of the family.
Yeah, they get to see it in the kitchen all the way to the event.
Yeah. That's pretty spectacular. So back to some of the challenges. So like, how have you overcome some of those? Have there been mentors along the way that have helped you kind of level up when it comes to the business side of things?
Yeah, for sure. We've been working with the Indiana Small Business Development Center for many years now. Tracy Davis has been our business advisor that's helped us through. We've also been working with Sam Centellis with CDFI Friendly, and Nick Ladig helped us recently with a big part that we needed that I am not proficient at would be the pro forma projections part. That's always been a big stumbling block for me with a business plan or to get the next level of funding is how do you just make up numbers that you don't know if you're going to make, how do you just make it up?
An accurate projection of,
right.
Yeah,
I mean, I could do some averaging and math, but I don't know what an EBITDA very well, like the terms and all that. So they were able to help us put that on a good spreadsheet to pitch. And and also then the struggles on how do we get level up? How do we do it through a small business loan? Do we get investors? Do we do the honeycomb crowdsourcing? It took us a while. We've been trying to figure out the right steps for the last 3 years. And now we just got word that we were approved for the South Bend Revolving Loan Fund, as long as we continue to get the last bits of the closing paperwork done.
Excellent.
So, that's been good.
And that is for, I'm assuming this is all for your next step in this journey, right? Which I think is a food truck, but tell me if I'm wrong.
No, that's the food truck dream that's been trying to come through for 10 years, and we're finally getting there.
Yeah. So what is that? Food trucks are surprisingly expensive, I believe.
Yes, they are.
This preparatory work is getting you to the point that you can borrow the money that you need to buy the food truck, which will allow you to what?
Do lots more events much easier than renting a U-Haul or loading up our cars and ask a friend to bring their car, or can someone transport the kids because we can't fit them in the car?
Right. Okay.
Popping up tent tables, hauling a griddle out there, and and we can start going to other locations a lot easier. We were asked last year to start going to Buchanan for Munchie Mondays. We've done a couple events in Elkhart. We've been asked to go to Goshen before, other parts of Michigan, and we've been asked to go to Chicago about 2 years, maybe 3 years now, where I was like, I can't do it without a truck. There's no way I'm going to haul
Logistically,
all this
it just
stuff.
doesn't make sense. Huh? Yeah.
Yeah. So with a kitchen already mobile in that unit would be amazing. We could serve a lot more people because you can only bring so much in coolers at an event. And
Sure.
Since we run solo on staff with just us and friends that will work half for tacos and half for food or for payment.
Right. Right.
We don't always have someone else of our capabilities go back to the kitchen, whip up more stuff.
Right. I can imagine. Right. You run low. You it's one of the two of you has to do it. Right?
Yeah.
There's no one else to do that.
Yeah. So it will make us a lot more efficient and hopefully get us to serve the community a lot more often too.
So what is the deal with food trucks? You drive them around. There's a full kitchen inside. You'll be able to do all your cooking in the food truck, or do you have to do some offsite prep?
We would definitely still need to do offsite prep, still utilizing our commissary just because it takes so long to do all of our sauces from scratch. And
sure.
The kimchi, you have to make sure you're planning that ahead of time, and braising the meat long enough.
I heard Jairo talking about 5 hours of braising meat. I suppose you could do that in a food truck, but it seems like maybe easier to do offsite and then just load into the food truck.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jairo. What else? What else is special about the food truck in your mind? You bring your kids with you on these journeys?
Yeah, I think
they're gonna have to come with us anyway. But
I think that just allows us to, like she said, expand a little bit more and get into more areas. So that helps.
I'm a little curious because sometimes catering businesses that have ambitions to grow, their first step in the thinking is a brick and mortar location. And I've known a number of food entrepreneurs who, they're catering and their goal is to get into a storefront. You two are different. You see the food truck as the next step. Why?
I think there's a need for it right now in South Bend. I think South Bend has a pretty good established brick and mortar community, and they're doing it pretty well. And we don't really. I mean, I've always looked at myself, like I said, either a TV chef or a chef that plates these really nice, dishes, right?
Sure.
And I just thought that her dream just makes more sense.
Okay.
With the food truck.
Mee Sun, we're gonna have to get him on TV one of these days. I can tell. We're gonna get a guest star in The Bear or something.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
And they just go in there and order a Sammy, right?
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
just take a sandwich.
Yeah.
We don't make
Yeah.
those anymore.
Yeah. So you're seeing this sort of as like there's a bit of a gap in the marketplace here. That's what I'm hearing. Like there's a lot of brick and mortar restaurants. You feel like they're, even though you're offering a very unique food experience, you think you could do better by deploying your food sort of regionally via the food truck.
Yeah, I mean, with the brick and mortar too, you're going to have a lot of overhead. You're going to need a lot of staff. You're going to need a lot more than what we have the capability to do, I think, with just us. And with the food truck, we can still keep it bare with labor and still reach a lot of people. And you can bring it to anywhere, that there's already people gathering.
Yeah.
Versus, when COVID hit, a lot of restaurants got hit too.
Sure.
But we pivoted and were able to bring the food to people's doorsteps. And that's how I was like, man, if we had a food truck, we could just go out even into neighborhoods and people could come up and grab their food and go back in their house,
Right. Right.
So I think it adds more flexibility.
You'll be pandemic proofed with the truck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just wear your mask.
Right. Right. So we're kind of getting towards wrapping up, but I'm wondering, I mean, this is a great story. And you've talked about some mentors who have helped you. I run into, and I think I'm sure you do too, other folks who have an interest in sort of food, cooking, restaurants. What advice would you give them here 10 years in to a younger entrepreneur who's pursuing a food dream?
I would say to be patient. Be patient, and if you have a family, always take care of them first, regardless of what's happening. But that requires a tremendous amount of patience.
Yeah, I imagine.
Because, I mean, you have the vision and you want it to happen, but it's going to happen according to the time, right? To God.
Yeah.
As I like to say, it's God's time, not our time.
That's great. What would you say, Mee Sun, to a young entrepreneur?
I would say to use the resources that are available. When you're going into it, you have all these questions and you don't know where exactly to turn to get the answers. And there's a lot of free resources out there, like the Indiana Small Business Development Center. Yeah. I would start there. Spark is a great program, I've heard, and the Samson Telus, the CDFI friendly. We have a friend, Kwa Hun, that's also a business entrepreneur that's been giving us advice. That's trying to start his business advising
Got it.
group.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and talk to other entrepreneurs for sure. Talk to them and ask them what their journey was, and that's a great way to start.
Yeah. That's great advice. So, other than your family and your business, I always try to end with this question, like, so what else would you say you're doing to make South Bend Elkhart a better place to live, work, and play? Like, are you engaging in things outside of the work? I mean, it's kind of built into this answer is sort of built in for you guys because what you're doing is actually making the region a better place to live, work, and play. But do you have other interests outside of the family and food that you're engaging in the community?
Just collaborations with, local artists. We have, mugs made by Alec Hooglin.
Fantastic.
The shirt was designed by Adam Scarberry, Jeff Naraki. So just utilizing the artists that are here in the community to do our merch.
Yeah, that is fantastic.
Build a brand around that.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, well, thank you both for being on. I cannot wait for the food truck to roll up on one of these streets one of these days. What can you tease us all with a timeline?
Well, we still have the closing paperwork to do, but I'm hoping that will be done by the end of the month. And we are working with a local business that builds food trucks called Overhill Concessions in Mishawaka. And they've got a truck ready for us.
Okay.
So, yeah,
So it's going to be sort of customized a little bit?
A little bit, yeah. We had them make a few changes after we told them we got approved. So we were put some money down for them to make those changes to hold the truck for us. And then We've got our friend Adam that does more of the image work. He's going to help us with getting the wrap for the track.
Okay. The same Adam who designed the t-shirt?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, he does building bridges for South Bend. So he's also about collaborating and helping the community grow, which is great. We just want to help all these different beautiful entrepreneurs that are sharing their gifts to thrive in South Bend and how we can make that a community effort.
We are so lucky to have both of you.
And this is a great tease too, because this is nobody else knows that. I mean, very little people know that we got the loan.
Yeah.
To get the truck.
But we haven't announced it exactly.
We haven't put it on Facebook
or
anything. So
well, this podcast episode won't come out until later in the summer.
perfect.
So you
Perfect.
don't have to,
Yeah, that'll be
to
great.
worry about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
jumping
we
the
don't
shark.
really care.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Great. Cannot wait. Thank you both.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.